Hello, and thank you for joining our webinar. I'm Matthew Owens, Director of Sales and Marketing at Annexa. I'm joined by Isabel Ford, a Marketing Assistant at Annexa, and Bart Wadley, Solutions Architect. We're here today to discuss and present our insights as to how we can use systems to refresh and optimize your distribution business. In today's webinar series, we're going to focus on quote to cash process. We're going to drill down into quoting, order management, fulfillment, and billing operations. The intent of the session is to dive deep into some of the challenges and innovations that our customers are driving in a bid to stay relevant, cost-effective, and competitive. And specifically, we're going to be drilling into the Oracle NetSuite solution stack that powers Annexa's clients' operations. Given the climate at the moment with COVID-19, obviously very well documented in terms of the situation, it's in our view that this is even more relevant as we begin to see the importance of flexible cloud solutions to enable continuity. Obviously, our thoughts are with those impacted with the current situation. Okay, so quickly introducing today's presenters. Matthew is me. I've been working as a business systems consultant for 10 years. Experience working with Australian-based distribution companies. After about 7 or 8 years consulting and project management, I now head up our sales and marketing teams. And in the role, I really enjoy discussing firsthand some of those drivers and challenges that our customers are facing as a distributor. I'm joined by Bart Wadley. Bart's one of our resident solution architects, an integral part of our team, and he's had 9 years experience working on the ground, delivering NetSuite ERP and the integrated solutions. Day in, day out, Bart's on the tools there, formulating solutions for some of our unique customers, and keeping pace with the requirements and demands that our customers need. So appreciate, Bart, your time and insights today. In terms of agenda, just be a couple of minutes from me. I'll just run through a brief introduction of who we are and our technology partners, Oracle, whom I'm sure you're all familiar with, and then highlight a couple of the, key themes and trends we're seeing locally in the Australian distribution market. I'll then throw over to Bart, who will run through our insights and give you some practical NetSuite solution demos along the way. Should be about 40 minutes for today's session, and we'll have around 10 minutes for Q&A as well. As mentioned, please don't hesitate to fire through questions in the Q&A. Really keen to answer those to the best of our ability in today's format, and or take those offline as needed. Quick intro on Annexa. We're Oracle NetSuite implementation partners, and really we support the end-to-end solution stack for distribution business, as well as retail, online, and digital companies as well. We also work with not-for-profits. Basically, we do ERP, CRM integration, and e-commerce in terms of the solution sets. We've been around about 30 years, starting off as a Sage ERP and CRM practice, subsequent to evolving into sort of cloud technology stacks with NetSuite. We've been fortunate to see tremendous success working with some really innovative brands and businesses in Australia and in the cloud technology space, which is really key to our success. We're located around the country in Melbourne, Sydney, and Brisbane. So in terms of people, a bunch of consultants and technical consultants, e.g. developers. We've got a strong blend of accountants, supply chain experts, and integration devs that enable us to deliver solutions for our customers. Really, that enables us customer success, and obviously the number one goal is to maximize our customers' investments in a NetSuite, and enable them to see commercial value and commercial impacts to their businesses. Introducing NetSuite, you all know Oracle NetSuite. That's why you're here today. So strategic technology partners with Annexa. We've been partnering with Oracle for coming on 8 years. and really NetSuite has been the platform that's enabled our business to grow. We're really proud to be highly regarded in terms of Oracle NetSuite, with the ability to deliver and ensure customer success and satisfaction. In terms of NetSuite, obviously market-leading cloud-based business management tool. Our sweet spot working with NetSuite, it's really businesses that have outgrown your typical accounting systems like a MyOb or maybe a Xero Plus plugins, and or bigger, more established businesses that already have an ERP. Typically, they can be pretty clunky and or outdated, largely on-premise or hosted in terms of technology. Either way, both scenarios, our customers are seeking more sophistication, more automation, more integration, so that they can continue to scale and give them the flexibility so that they can stay relevant. NetSuite's the tool that enables us to support our clients' needs. So on the clients, as I mentioned, really proud of our team and our ability to work with some really great brands and organizations across Australia. In terms of the distribution space, some examples, there's a few there, Linen House, Cargo Crew, Telegram, T2, all great examples of distribution businesses that are continuing to evolve to stay relevant and have partnered with Annexa and NetSuite to support that journey. Okay, a little bit of a snapshot on a few of the key themes that Bart's demonstrations will align to. Really, there are many business drivers in the distribution space. They're broad and constantly evolving. Let's pick out a few that are really core to all customers that we work with. Customer service is king, right? So it's no longer, about just about the accounting postings that need to occur within an ERP. Our customers are constantly seeking to improve customer service to be smooth and really maximize repeat customer business. So for distributors, the other component is digital capability. Demand for digital capability is the new normal, whether that be through e-com, customer portals, self-service capability, really critical. In terms of distribution, new and evolving business models. So the way we go in and set up NetSuite is not to run a business in one way. It's to give them flexibility to support a bunch of different business models. So different types of on-demand services being offered, and certainly, digital channels have really accelerated the way that works. New ways of working, obviously particularly relevant in the current climate, but the way we interact with our customers and vendors needs to be really smooth, and we need to be able to change it really quickly. Leads into agility. We don't want to be hamstrung with legacy systems that are difficult to change. And our customers are constantly moving, right? Constantly moving, constantly evolving business process to evolve, and or it's the threat of being left behind and being made redundant, such as the fast pace of the technology space. And integration flexibility with key customers and suppliers is expected. So whether that be EDI or dropship capability, 3PL warehousing, payment provider integrations, shipping provider integrations, it's all critical. And it's now expected that you can integrate with all of those things to facilitate your supply chain operations. If you're not doing that, likely there is a more efficient way to be doing what you're doing. And if you're planning on scaling your operations, then that's going to be challenging without having those right integrations in play. So lots of things going on, and I guess across the quote to cash process, there's so much of stuff that we could drill into for today. So we've done our best to highlight a few key areas that we thought would be relevant for the audience. And on that note, I'm going to throw over to Bart Wadley, who's going to get stuck into the practical solutions insights and a couple demos. Over to you, buddy.
Thanks very much, Matt. So I guess what I want to kick off with to start with today is some generic challenges and solutions that we're seeing across the whole quote to cash process. I appreciate not everyone is handling a quote process, but everyone at least has an order to cash process that is really the heart and soul of their businesses. So what we've got here is some of the common challenges that we're seeing. So we've got customer management, getting that single view of the customer. We've got inventory visibility. So we're lacking that inventory visibility to know where our stock is. We've got sales growth. So that desire to grow into new markets and new locations and diversify our services. Lead management. It's somewhat ad hoc for a lot of organizations, and we're missing opportunities because of it. And the final one is forecasting. So that manual effort behind forecasting is very difficult for a lot of organizations out there. So let's just talk through two of these, and I think there's a common theme between them both, and that's timely information. So if we look at customer management, we heard it before, the customer is king. So we need to have this single view of our customer, and it's critical for us to make the right decisions and give them accurate information. So this 360 view that NetSuite's providing us is letting us visualize a transaction history, custom pricing, and any sort of latest CRM activities or communications that's going on with our customer. And on the same note, inventory visibility. So some organizations are really lacking their ability to know where their stock is, whether that's internal or external or across locations. So our customers calling up saying, I need 500 boxes by Friday. Can we tell them, A, that we've got that stock somewhere at one of our warehouses, or B, it's currently on an order and we know what that expected date is, or we know what that lead time is for that product. And to answer these questions in real time is setting us ahead of a lot of our competitors that are stuck on legacy platforms. So lots of things to sort of generically look at the quote to cash process, but let's look into a standard flow now and talk through some of the enhancements that we can sort of see throughout this process. So in the middle here, we've got a quote. That quote will go through an acceptance process, and it'll either be closed or it'll be converted into an order. That order, again, will go through a validation process, and we'll update that status, and then we'll get an approved order. Okay, that's a pretty standard flow in the scheme of things. But where can we see enhancements across the board? So the first one is a big one. It's the source. So how are we getting these quotes and orders into the system? That's where we're looking at e-commerce platforms. We're looking at integrated third-party tools. We're looking at NetSuite mobile orders. And we're looking at whatever can sort of assist us to get these orders and quotes into the system easily for people that are on the road, or we're giving that power back to the customer. And then to speed up this process, again, we want to look at that acceptance and validation process. So what variables do we have here? We need to give them fulfillment times. Our managers need to be able to approve these orders quickly. We need to look at inventory levels, and we need to understand the pricing and promotions for each individual customer so they're getting that personalized feel. So I guess that's the start of the whole chain of things. We then go through a fulfillment process. So we're picking and we're packing and we're shipping these orders off into our invoicing and then our payments. So again, looking at some of those enhancements, how can we make it easier for our customers to pay? Do we look at online portals? Do we look at alternate payment methods like Afterpay, BPay, and all these other methods? And how are we giving these details out to our customers? Is all that information readily available on the email that we send them or on the printout of the invoice? It absolutely has to be to enable these payments to occur. And then if we look at some integrations that are quite common in the market now, is through that fulfillment or that pick, pack, ship process is integrating to our shipping providers to get all that information around the shipping process and route and bringing that back onto the information within NetSuite. Or if we're utilizing 3PLs, we still need that visibility of that stock. So we want that information coming back into our core ERP platform to make these decisions as best as possible. So what we're going to do now is we'll drill into each of our processes through quote to cash. But in doing that, I thought I'd give you a bit of a case study of one of the customers that we've helped in the past and gone through a transformation project with them. So this organisation that I'll be talking through today, they actually sell packaging tools and equipment. They sell a lot of dispatch materials and a lot of just general hardware goods. So they've got some pretty major retailers on their list. So Bunnings, Mitre 10 and Officeworks. And then obviously they've got a lot of smaller retailers that they deal with as well. They came from a mild background that you could nearly say spreadsheets also ran their organisation, and that's not just from a reporting point of view, but they did keep those spreadsheets as sort of like a running database as well. And they basically had zero automation helping them throughout the way. So for quoting, they, quite sort of standard, they would take phone calls and they'd send themselves an email or they'd write it down on a piece of paper and they'd follow it up at a later time. If they were actually in the office in front of their terminals, they would directly put, that quoting information or that order information into the system. But as we know, a lot of reps are out there and they are in the face of customers. So it's not always possible to be sitting there taking that nice phone call when it's convenient to them. So the challenges that we've got on the screen here, the top 4 were really prevalent for them, but I'll go through them all now. So removing double handling and getting our staff to adopt technology is certainly an interesting challenge. So enhancing that quote capture process and considering your workforce in doing that. So if we put in this new whiz-bang mobile ordering or quoting system and we don't think we've got the staff to adopt it, that is not a good idea. So looking at a process where our customer can directly put that quote in would be a good idea, and it will remove that double handling. Providing accurate quotes. So having that 360 view of the customer with the correct pricing and the correct promotions all attached is critical to make sure we're not making errors at quote or order stage. We want to efficiently distribute a quote or proposal to your prospect. So automate the distribution of those quote records. We don't need to attach them to an email separately and send them out. We want the systems working for us. We need a smooth conversion from a quote to our operations and our fulfillment processes. So we don't want double entry. We don't want any manual intervention. We want to click a button and the next process occurs in the run of things. And the last one I've got there is their ability to forecast. Okay, so if we're not getting that quote data into the system, it's very hard for us to forecast, for the procurement teams to understand what items we need to order, okay? So what I'll do now is I'll jump into NetSuite so you can get a bit of a look of what the system would look like. So up on my screen here, I've got a quote. This quote is just for the local hardware store there. You can see we've got our locations and our status and who the rep is. So all that information right there in our face. For any of our sort of larger quotations that we're doing, we can utilize sort of expiry dates and closure dates and probabilities to enable us to look at that forecasting run. We've then got all the information on our product and what the quote is actually for. So price levels coming through automatically from our customer record. Everything that we need from the customer record should automatically apply itself to the quote to make this process simple. And if it doesn't, and we need to look up that information, we should be one click away. So I can click on the customer here, a local hardware store, and that will open up my customer record. Okay, so then from a customer record point of view, we can see that full 360 view that we spoke about. So I've got CRM activities here. I can see that they're trying to negotiate discount rates and that there's a follow-up booked on the price agreement that we're doing with them. From a sales point of view, I can see any other quotes and orders that they might have in the system already. And then we talk about that full 360. So a 360 view, letting us look at the number of orders, the number of invoices, what sales orders are open, what they're buying, what they're not buying, and really getting all that information at our fingertips. And then from a financial lens, maybe we're looking at the terms, we're looking at their price level, we might be looking at specific items that they get at a better price, but being all attached here is going to enable us to have all that information basically coming directly through. If I'm back on the quote record now, I want to know that this record was sent. Okay, so here I've got the attachment of the quote. It's been automatically sent. There's no need for sort of manual handling, and I know that that record's been received from the customer. And I guess the final step to do with a quote is an easily conversion process. Okay, so NetSuite's telling us what the next step in this process could be. So I can hit this sales order button and it will go and create my sales order. Or if I was going direct to invoice or a cash sale, maybe I've got some sort of POS function that can happen automatically as well just by clicking these buttons up the top here. Okay, so that's a bit of a snapshot of the quote, and it's answering a lot of those questions. So the fact that I've already got this quote in the system means that it has come from an alternate source. So I can see here it's come from the web. I've got that recorded. So then if I look at, say, reporting, I could see where all my different quotes are coming from, where they're manually entered, whether they came from the manual mobile device, and then I can do reporting of what's working and not working in my organization as well. So really, really critical. Okay, so let's jump back to PowerPoint now, and we'll look at the order management. Okay, so if I go back to my case study again, I've got my box organization. They were basically creating a new record to represent an order now. If they didn't have a quote, same principles apply. They were putting the details in for that order. But yeah, pretty sort of standard process. For their bigger retailers, they were doing a manual sort of export and import capability. And in their eyes, that was working quite fine. You know, it seemed fast to them that they were sort of just, you know, going through an import and going through an export process where they got this data ready. That seemed a lot quicker than what they were doing. So let's focus specifically on some of the challenges that we've got on the screen here, but remembering everything that we discussed at the quote stage is still very prevalent here. Okay, so the idea around double handling and accurate information and giving that customer the best experience we can, it doesn't matter whether it's an order or a quote, that's all the same principles. Okay, so the first one we've got here, providing customers with accurate stock and order details. Much more prevalent at the order stage than the quoting stage. We need to be able to understand that we've got the stock and we've got the days of when it will sort of come into our organization. So the solution to that is that 360 view. So similar to what we saw on the customer before, we're now looking at it from an item lens. The next one we've got is ordering the correct stock to meet demand. Okay, this is where some of the forecasting comes into play. Do we want to look at doing special orders, or do we want to look at drop shipments, or are we doing bulk ordering just off the demand of quotes or orders that are in the system? If they're in there in a timely manner, that all becomes possible. And there's a lot of automation around creating those purchase orders within the NetSuite solution. And the final one that we've got here is how can I increase order quantities or frequencies to keep up with the competition? Okay, this one really goes back to the idea of giving the customer the tools to assist that ordering process. So EDI, e-commerce, customer portals makes it very easy. And any of those industries that are used to that personalized touch where a rep does come out and walk through those orders, then a mobile ordering system is critical to get that information sort of back to head office as quick as possible. For the company that I'm talking about today, EDI was the main key for them. So sort of did away with that manual import-export process and hooked up a live EDI, which just enabled their quantities to basically increase because it was such a seamless process. There was never errors, notifications were occurring automatically, and that experience really went up a notch. Okay, so let's jump back into NetSuite now, and we've got an order. So before I left, I hit the sales order button. So straight away, it's giving me a stock notification. Okay, so the 2 items that I had on my quote, as I'm converting it into an order, it's telling me that I've got items back ordered and that I've got 200 on order, but I don't have any available for commitment. Okay, so straight away, I'm getting a very relevant message to do with my order. I've got my order that I've prepared earlier already on the screen, but as you can see, pretty similar looking document to our quote. We've got some different information that's more relevant to an order. So if we are doing some of that automated purchasing, we'll have that link found on the purchase document. A lot more to do with stock. Okay, so I've got my on-hand value, I've got what's available, what's been committed, if I've picked, packed, fulfilled, invoiced, back-ordered, all of that at my fingertips here when I'm looking at the order. Likewise to what we showed before with the customer, we can drill into that item record as well. So here's my item for my large box cutter. I've got that 360 view, okay? I can see a list of items that are on back order. I can see what items are on purchase order. So straight away, when I get that question to say, when am I going to get my order, I can tell them quite confidently, I've got 200 coming in on the 27th, and then I'll be able to meet the requirements that their customers pushing upon them. But if I wasn't looking at that, I'd be looking at my different locations. Okay, so where is my stock throughout my organization? And this is where 3PLs come into the situation as well. I want to understand that I've got stock available in different locations to be able to do that. Okay, so same thing again, that inventory sort of warning that we got. If I was on a record and say I was changing that product, I want to get those errors and information right there in my face as I'm doing the order live in the system. So let's make this 140. I'll try to save this. Okay, I'm getting that information straight away so I can make those decisions timely with my customers. Okay. Now that's basically our quote and order, which is a lot of our main data entry, which we're trying to improve utilizing e-coms and customer portals and those sorts of things. So if I go back to our PowerPoint now, we're now looking at fulfillment. Now this is generally where we see a lot of efficiency errors, I guess you could say. So our box organization was no different. Their picking process was pretty much someone in the head office would print out the picking ticket. They'd either drop it down in the tray of the warehouse employee, or in other cases, they'd direct the print down to the printer that was on the warehouse floor. That employee is going to run around with this picking ticket, and it's basically a Bible. They're writing on this thing with pen when it's picked, when it's packed. They're putting lines through things that they don't have, and then they're basically just sitting it back in a different tray on the desk that's near the computer there. So we've got no internal tracking. So if something's already been picked and it's sitting in the packing area, we're basically relying on that sheet of paper with a note on it, which is very difficult to trace. So for their organization, implementing the NetSuite reminders as a phase 1 basically cut their printing of picking slips in half. We literally got that down 50%. And then when we go into phase 2, we're going to be implementing sort of handheld devices and taking them completely paperless at that point. So we look at our challenges and solutions again. How can I go paperless and reduce those picking errors? That's the handheld devices. It's usually NetSuite reminders to notify staff instead of them relying on a printout that they're running away with. Printouts can still work, but the information needs to come back into the system for that visibility. So when you're using a handheld device, it certainly happens a lot more frequently if you're doing that sort of technology. We've got providing the customer with the updated information throughout the journey of the order. Okay, so this is where we're looking at automating these communications. So this to me is a no-brainer. There's no manpower required to automate the system to send a notification to an internal staff member or a customer as their order progresses through the journey to the invoice point. Okay. And then the last one we've got here is, how can I get the orders out the door faster? How can I improve picking? How can I improve my warehouse operations? And I think, there's a lot of different solutions that you can do in this realm. The two biggest ones we're seeing is barcoding solutions, or sort of lightweight warehouse management solutions, which is including scanning and picking routes. Okay, so not sending the guy to the furthest part of the warehouse to get one item, and then he comes back and then the next one that he prints out is back in that exact same spot. So really gaining some efficiencies in just navigating the warehouse is becoming, a lot more prevalent out in the market. Okay, so again, let's jump back into NetSuite and we'll look at a fulfillment. So with fulfillments, where I was saying we're trying to utilize reminders. Okay, so our different warehouse staff or roles can have these reminders that are live, they're real time, and they're telling us what the next thing is that they need to do in their role. So you can see here, I've got lots of fulfillments that I need to perform. So going and picking that stock. I've got some packing that needs to be done, and I've got some shipping that needs to be done. And simply clicking on these will take us to the right page. So if I click on orders to fulfill, it'll open up my fulfillment page. And you can see this is enabling us to do bulk functions. So we can do bulk picking, we can do bulk printing, and we can do bulk fulfilling. Okay, so setting our location here, we've got weights coming through to assist with the packing stages, and we can click and submit and make this quite a simple process. So if that data entry that seems to be such a critical issue to get people to adopt is becoming as easy as humanly possible. And then, further to that, we do have importing functions throughout these processes as well. When we talk about our fulfillment stage, that's where we're going back to those shipping integrations. So if I was looking at, say, a fulfillment record, on that fulfillment record, are we integrating with our shipping providers, one, the different packages, two, the different weights? Are we looking at dates of when the shipping provider is updating our system as well? So getting those package details back, looking at shipping information and shipping dates all within our system. So when that phone call comes through to say, where's my order up to? Do I have to log into my shipping software and navigate it that way? Do I need to make a phone call to find out where it is? Or is it all in one spot, integrated in one system to help me make those decisions? Okay, so that's essentially fulfillment. And yeah, this different status is crucial for our internal use to understand that it's been moved from warehouse shelf to packing area to shipping area. And then we know exactly what the story is throughout our organization. Okay. Now, the last one we've got is billing and collections. Okay. It's all about money, money, money. So let's paint that picture again with our case study. The invoicing process for these guys, it was pretty standard out there in the market. They raised an invoice for the goods. They didn't really have double handling. It converted the order pretty fine, but they did manually email this invoice out. They made sure that the right person was getting it, and then they would send that email out. In other cases, they'd print the invoice with the goods, and it would go out that way. Okay, and that leads us to point one. Is the correct person getting a copy of that invoice? Okay, so we're looking at increasing our customer management. So if the email address that is held on the customer record is just admin@localhardwarestore.com.au, is that the person that should have got this order? or have we got an individual contact that came through with that order that they need the invoice, okay? And putting automation around that is certainly saving a lot of time. We've got what's left outstanding. Has there been a deposit applied? Did they pay up front? The invoicing team shouldn't be chasing this information. They shouldn't be reading little side notes or sticky notes that have sort of been put on records throughout the process. If a deposit was applied, it will auto-apply itself in NetSuite to that invoice. If there's a billing schedule that they've come up with a payment arrangement or anything like that, then when we hit the invoice button, it should be giving us the correct amount for that invoice. So the printing, the emailing is all seamless from within NetSuite. Now we look at getting paid faster. Okay, this is directly related back to that flow that I spoke about earlier. What payment methods do we have available? What portals can we do to enable these payments to come through? This can certainly lead us into a lot of bank reconciliation questions as well if we just open up every payment method under the sun. So you certainly have to think about your strategy in that realm, but crucial to make sure that we've got the appropriate methods for our organisation. Okay, and the last one, debt collection, following up outstanding invoices. Okay, a lot of the time an invoice will go out, it'll just send with the goods, or it'll be sitting in someone's inbox and they'll literally just forget about the invoice coming through. So automating those payment reminders, we are finding very successful for our customers that are just literally forgetting to pay, okay? We've certainly still got the situation where we need to call up some clients because they did see it and they just don't have the money right now and they're sort of holding off on payment. But if we can have a structured sort of payment reminder process that sort of starts with an overdue notice and a friendly reminder and those sorts of things, it really assists us to get that money back in. And like I said, we've seen huge success among our customer base in sort of automating this, because I'm sure you've all got an appreciation for the awkward phone calls that has to happen for a day straight with someone in the admin department ringing up customers, chasing up payments, when if we can get some of those easier ones quickly, we should do that. Okay, so let's jump back to platform for one more time. Okay, so I'll go back to our sales order record. Once that fulfillment has occurred, we'll have our invoice button here. If there was meant to be a deposit, we've got that deposit that can be applied direct to the sales order, okay? But in terms of this whole process of quote to cash, this sales order is the key record. So if there was quotes related to it, that'll all be held under the related records. If any fulfillments had occurred, it's all here. And then any invoices, payments, and everything related to this order is held in one place. So we can get that full picture quite quickly. If we look at an invoice record, pretty standard, everything's converted from the order, our price levels come through, all our pricing, but we can see we've not just got a total, we've got an amount due. So applied deposits automatically happening for us. If this was an invoice 1 of 2, then we'd get that information here as well. And then looking at what's next. So thinking of those automated reminders that I was talking about, we should see those invoices here go out. And any reminders that go out, we should see them all on this record that then summarizes its way back to our customer, Bunnings Warehouse, Warren Ponds. Okay, so it's all about, getting all this information in one spot, giving us a full view, and allowing us to make these decisions quickly and timely to assist cash flow. Okay, that pretty much covers off invoicing. So what we'll sort of do from here is think about some of our Q&A that we've got. So I'll just sort of duck over to our panel here. Okay, so we've got a couple of questions that have come through. So The first one is around what is the implementation process for NetSuite. Okay, so we get this pretty common. No one sort of wants to jump ship in the ERP world because I think it's this nightmare process that takes 6 to 12 months. Quite frankly, that's not the case anymore with sort of the methodologies that people are using and the technology that's available. You want to go live with a product between 3 and 4 months with as much value as you can get within that time frame. You're starting to see a return on investment if you can do that. These projects that are sort of going for that 12-month period, you're just sort of burning bridges, burning resources, and it takes a long time to get to the point that you need to. So that's pretty much from a timeline point of view. From that implementation process, it's all about having the right methodology. And, at Annexa, we believe we've got that right. It's working through that personalization piece and the design piece right up front. So that's us working with leading practice, us working with your internal processes, and finding the right blend of where leading practice is going to give your organization benefits and where your unique process is what sets you apart from your competition, and finding that blend. Then going through a build phase into a validation phase, which is essentially testing and training, enabling the customer with everything they need to be able to utilize the system once we go live. We then go into deployment, and the deployment is all about getting the system live, okay? It's about reconciling data between old system and new system, and making sure that the hand-holding process is happening so that you're comfortable with the new system that's gone into play. Another question we've got here is around time. So how long will it take us to get the system and these processes up and running? So I've sort of answered that previously. So that's that 3 to 4 month range. When we're thinking about all these other integrations that we can do, they might be a phase 2, and it all depends on what your organization is doing now. We usually recommend, if the integration isn't in place, get the core ERP up with all the advantages of the new platform, and then do that integration as a phase 2. We've got one more question come through here. What's the difference between NetSuite and a WMS system, so a warehouse management system? So to answer this, it's probably more around NetSuite's sort of core principle is around inventory management and advanced inventory management. They certainly handle a lot of warehouse management functions and processes, but when you look at adopting a warehouse management solution, that's certainly where you're getting those additional benefits around picking routes, efficient warehouse layouts, load limits on where we can put these items away in that warehouse, handheld devices and barcode scanning. NetSuite covers some basic functions around that, but warehouse management solution systems certainly take that to the next level. So, a lot of customers will sort of start with the bare bones within NetSuite and using their advanced inventory features, and then adopting to utilize a warehouse management system as like a phase 2. If they've already got a pretty well-established warehouse management solution already, that's when we'll look to integrate that with the functions within NetSuite. And given, we had a look at that inventory record before for the item, all the locations are there. They've got barcoding capabilities. They've got weights, labels, and all that side of things. So it integrates very well in that space. And then the only other thing that I'd sort of note is to do with sort of the printing of labels. Okay, so there's a lot of different labels that need to be printed throughout the way. So critical that we've got a solution that's quite slick and speedy in doing that. And these warehouse management solutions have certainly answered those pieces. So in terms of Annexa, we partner with RF Smart, High Jump, which is Excelos, and we've done a lot of integrations to 3PLs out there in the market. So we've certainly got sort of a good lineup on our team to make sure that if our customers do require those warehouse management solutions, we've got integrated products to give that seamless experience across the quote to cash process. All right. I think that's all we've got for questions. Certainly, if you think of any others, by all means, shoot them through to us or shoot them through while we're sort of doing our final notes here. But Matt, I might throw back to you to let us know what's next.
Thanks, Bart. Yeah, really appreciate it, mate. Good job. Thanks to all for joining today's session, hopefully from the comfort of your lounge room or home office. Part 2 of our 2-part series for distributors is on the 22nd of April, and the core focus is all around inventory management. Right, so looking forward to that session. Hopefully we can see you along. And if you've got any specific questions or advice or demos that you'd like to see, more than happy to hook up a brief Zoom call and or schedule any sort of deeper discovery or demonstration workshops as needed. So comms are up there. Please do reach out. We'd love to hear from you and hear about how we can help your business.